Hello. Right, welcome to the first of a new series of videos that I'm going to do on training. Apologise for the snoring bulldog. So this first one, what we're going to cover is training in general, not anything specific about techniques, just some general overall points regarding training. This may take up a few videos, we'll see how it goes, and then I'll get into specific body parts and techniques and that sort of thing. So we're going to start very, very simple. How does it work? Well, as human beings, our bodies are inherently lazy, and they don't want to do a lot of workload. They don't want to be pushed near their limits, so they are adaptive. And in regards to muscle tissue, what happens, obviously most people are already aware of this, that when we train we damage muscle fibre. The body then repairs this, and it also overcompensates slightly, so that if it encounters that level of force and workload again, it's easier for the body to do. Now that's the basic principle behind it. So that's what we try and do. We create damage, a necessity to grow and repair and compensate. Now, one of the key things about a productive training program isn't how long it is, or how short it is, or which professional or YouTube celebrity promotes it, or what name it has, or what science is behind it. None of this really matters that much if one key element isn't there, and that is that you enjoy it. When you were at school, the lessons you excelled in were the ones you were either good at or you enjoyed. The lessons you were shit in were generally the ones you didn't like. Now, if you're doing, a certain training program and it either confuses you, you have no faith in it, you don't believe it for essence, argument's sake, or you don't like it, chances are it's not going to be very successful. So you've got to enjoy it. That's the first thing. Now, I've been criticised over the years for the way I train. And, I'm 45, nearly 46 now, or whatever it is, I can't honestly remember. Hang on. 45, sorry. And, you need to ease up, do higher volume, less heavy weights, this, that, and the other. I fucking hate it. I get bored. If I'm in a set for in excess of 10, 12 reps, or even at 10, 12 reps, I start to get bored. So I prefer my set range of 6 to 8. Now that doesn't mean that they're more productive from a scientific point of view, but they are more productive from an enjoyment point of view. And because I enjoy it more, I put more into it, therefore I get more out of it. So, rule number 1, enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, why are you doing it? Now, there will always be those body parts that we don't like, and they are usually for several reasons. 1, it's painful, it's uncomfortable. This is generally very true of legs. 2, we ain't very good at it. We're weak on that movement, or we're weak on that body part. And 3, it doesn't respond very well. Learn to enjoy it. You'll then get stronger at it. You'll then respond better at it. And then you'll no longer hate that body part. So there you go. So, very, very key element is enjoying what you do. If you don't enjoy what you do, chances are you're not going to sustain it for very long. And even if you do, you're not going to be very successful at it. Now, a few other things. Switching it up, changing it around. Argued very honestly as confusing the muscle. Well, the muscle, in that case, you're giving it far too much credibility for intelligence. The muscle has one job: pull. That is all it does. It pulls. I've never been a fan of the push-pull split for the simple and only reason that you don't push anything. Muscles don't push anything. When you do a push movement like a bench press, the pectoral pulls the arm across. The tricep pulls the forearm straight. The front delt pulls the arm. Nothing pushes. So, in that terminology alone, I think it creates the wrong mindset. Now, regarding mixing it up, this is usually more of a mental thing because you're bored or you're stalling or you're seeing a lack of progress in the actual weight itself. For argument's sake, if you always bench first on chest and then fly, and then you switch it around and you fly first, obviously you're going to be stronger in the flying movement. Then when you come to bench, because you're already used to benching a certain weight, your mental approach is going to be to achieve that weight again. And even though you're now pre-fatigued, you've got more chance of achieving that weight because you've done it before. You know it, it's familiar, it's comfortable for you. So that can create progress. But to be fair, if you're honest, no set, no rep is ever the same. Slightly different speed, slightly different grips, slightly different mental focus, whatever it may be. Slightly different day prior to the workout, a little bit more fatigued physically or mentally, not eating quite the same amount of calories. There can be so many variants, so no workout really is ever the same anyway. Now, another point. You can train hard, and there's various ways of training hard. Or you can train long. You can't do both. But that doesn't mean that training long can't be hard. I mean, I've had the honour of training with Alvin Small. And he's regarded as a very hard trainer. Now, Alvin is incredibly strong. In fact, for a bodybuilder, he's very, very strong. But not only that, he has very good strength, endurance, something that I've never really had. Now, when I trained arms with Alvin, we were doing, about 30, 40 sets. I was done after 12 sets. Because I've always trained on putting a lot of focus into a minimum number of sets. Alvin does set after set after set. And I was bored. And I didn't enjoy the workout. And it was hard because of the massive duration that I wasn't used to. But it wasn't hard from a single set intensity point of view. So it was long, but it was hard. But you think you know where I'm coming. You can't train at high intensity if you're going to do a lot of sets. So it's all got to be one or the other. And you've got to be realistic about your body type, your lifestyle, and your calorie intake. If you're a builder, or you have a physical job, you're a labourer, you're grafting all day long, there is no point going in the gym and doing an hour and 15 minutes on chest and 50 sets. Pointless. You'll be far more productive doing a high intensity style workout. Same if you're naturally slim, you can't afford to burn the calories. Now if you're naturally a fat git like me, then you're more likely to get away with more high volume workouts. I just don't do them because they bore me. So, look at what's practical for you as an individual in your lifestyle and around your calorific intake and what you do for a career job. If you sat at a desk all day, then you might find that physically you're not fatigued, but mentally you are. So you might have to adapt your workout to suit that. It might be better that you choose exercises that you find comfortable, you respond easily to, and not go for exercises that take a great deal of thought and focus for you. So there's all these things you need to play, and obviously utmost of all this is that you enjoy it. At the end of the day, what's the fucking point in doing this shit if you don't enjoy it? live once, make it a good one. So, like I said, and the other thing is, what you get in is what you'll get out. One of the things I see more and more and more is a lack of hard training. Now, there are some guys out there that do train very, very hard. But a lot of guys don't. And you know, if you're going to train to failure, that means failure. That means you can't move it. It's not going anywhere. It doesn't matter what you do. Everything you put into that ain't going anywhere. Now, that's fairly easy to achieve on biceps. It's a little bit more difficult to achieve on quads or back. So, you know, that's to consider. You've got to be honest with yourself. Because a lot of people, like, you know, message me and it's like, I want to get massive, what drugs should I take? But they never say, I want to get massive, how should I train? And it's like, that should be, you know, training and diet should be your priorities before the drugs come into it. Now, don't get me wrong, I mean, I've got it all mixed up and I've got more drug focused than I should have been training focused. So it does happen, it's easy to happen, and I'm not criticising them for doing it. But every now and again, you've got to step back and assess yourself. If you're not strong enough will to do it, or you get too blinkered, which is very common with bodybuilders, then maybe you're better getting someone you trust, training partner, friend, partner, whatever it may be, to be straight with you about things. And when you do something, particularly drug intake wise, question yourself why. Anyway, going off track a little bit here. But training intensity, or how hard you train. There's no medals for being the hardest trainer. It's about being hard and smart with it. There's no point doing a movement and busting your balls if it's not going to be productive for you. But at the same time, if you go in there and do 4 sets of 8 and just about break a sweat, don't be moaning when you're not growing. You know, like I say, you'll get in when you get out. Be honest with yourself. Are you putting the workload in to justify the gains you're expecting? Progressive resistance. It's a lot, and I mean, the story behind it is, I can't remember the guy's name, but every day he picked up a cow, and he carried this cow. It started as a calf, and as the cow grew, he grew, because the load he was carrying got progressively heavier. And, you know, yeah, progressive resistance will cause growth, but there becomes a point of diminishing returns, and there becomes a point, you know, if that was the case, we'd have people benching 2,000 pounds, a 1,000 pound deadlift wouldn't be such a big deal, or a 500 kg deadlift for that matter wouldn't be such a big deal. The fact is, that can't go on forever. So you change your progressive resistance. It doesn't have to be all about workload, about load of weight. It can be about tempo, it can be about intensity, it can be about restoration. All sorts of things there. Now, why I'm talking about restoration, I actually believe that slightly longer rest periods are more productive. And I believe there's studies to back this up, but I've been saying this for a very long time. There's a bit of a buzz, and there can be a high intensity about training quite quickly with quite fast pace, but I think a good minute between sets, especially your heavy stuff, probably even more then, there's nothing wrong with that. You take as much time as you need to be physically and mentally able to complete the next set with the intensity you want to complete it with. Obviously, you're not going to sit there for 5-10 minutes and have a cup of coffee. So there are a few that sit there and update their Facebook and Snapchat and God knows what fucking else between sets. So, you know, it does happen. So let's be sensible here, guys. It's enough to recover. It ain't a fucking holiday. But progressive resistance doesn't have to be workload. It can be all these other factors. So it can be intensity. It can be mental focus. It can be feel. It can be contraction speed or contraction intensity. You know, there's all sorts of other aspects of progressive resistance. Logbooks. I'm 50-50 with these things. They do can track your progress, but they also do create a mentality of I must beat my logbook. And then you'll start to see small variables changing. Rep tempo, range of motion, form, all these things will start to slide a little bit. Now, the ultimate example of this is CrossFit. And I'm not beating up on CrossFit, but the fact is, you give someone a bar, put a load on it, and say deadlift that as many times as you can in 60 seconds, and the form's going to go out the fucking window. Hence why CrossFit has such a bad reputation for injuries and shit form. It's not that the movements are bad or that the thesis behind it is crap. It's just that when you put someone against the clock, their primary goal is numbers against the clock, not quality of movement. So, and logbook it doesn't always, but can create this same ethos, where you're so focused on beating your previous numbers that you start to lose track of quality. Now, I tend to naturally go through cycles of this, where I'll time my training right up, strictness, form, control, everything. And then as the strength starts to come up, I'll start to focus on the strength a little bit more, and I'll get a little bit strength obsessive, and then the form will start to lean away a little bit, and then I'll start getting a niggle. And then I'll pull the form back, tighten everything up, and then I repeat the cycle. And it just seems to be a natural thing that just happens automatically with me. Now, different training styles. We've got DC, we've got FST7, we've got this, we've got that. Fucking Billy Bob's, Uncle Joe's fucking barnyard workout. Who cares? If you enjoy it, fine. The key thing in all this is that you train intensively enough to cause results. And it doesn't really matter what you do as long as you do it well. And if FST is a workout that you enjoy to the point that it means you train effectively, then great. If 5-5, great. Fine. Now, a lot of questions I often get asked is, how often should I train? There are a lot of factors in this. Obviously, daytime commitments, physical expenditure, calorie intake, all these sort of things, age, sleep patterns, all play a role. But Dorian has a lot to answer here. In a way, Dorian has probably caused more people to have less progression than any other bodybuilder ever. And you're all going to go, what the fuck, how can you say that about Dorian? Whoa, just hear me out. Dorian popularised high intensity training. Menza had done it before, but Dorian brought it to a new age because he brought a new standard of bodybuilding to the stage. I've seen Dorian train. I've trained for quite a while with Billy Payne, who used to train with Dorian. And you know what? I have come across very few people that can generate that level of intensity in that set. Now, Dorian didn't do one set anyway. I mean, he warmed up. He went through the weights till he got to his working set. But I've not really met many people that can replicate that. So what happened, obviously, when Dorian hit the scene and blew everybody's mind, oh, how does he train? How does he do this? How does he eat? What drugs does he take? And everyone got onto the high intensity. And everybody was, oh, I'm only going to train one part a week or every 10 days or whatever they decided to do. But none of them replicated the intensity. So they ended up under training. For most people that I've seen that propose that they do hit training, they don't. Myself included. I add in a few more sets because I cannot, day in, day out, muster that level of intensity. So, for a lot of people, you're just not training hard enough. It's as simple as that. And your hit ain't hit. Okay? You've got to put the effort in if you want the results. Now, I've tried twice a day. I've tried one body part a day. I've tried everything once a week. I've tried high volume, which bored me fucking stupid. And I've tried low volume. And what I find works for me, and what I find works for a lot of people, is low volume, high frequency. Train everything twice a week, but limit the number of sets you do. Now, set limiting has two major effects. It's a bit like hit it hard and fast, get out, but then hit it hard and fast again. So your total volume for the week will be the same as someone doing high volume one body part a week. But the weight you move would be greater. Your overall workload, your overall weight moved would be greater because you're fresher, shorter duration workouts, enabling you to move more weight, more strength, more damage, more muscle fiber repair, more growth. The other advantage to sets limits is it teaches you intensity. If I say to you now, next time you train biceps, you can do no more than 8 sets, including warm-ups. Once you've done those 8 sets, whatever's happened, you've got to leave biceps. If I follow that with, if you're training that body part once a week, you only have 52 times a week to make that body part grow. Take off 2-3 weeks for holidays, illnesses, you're probably going to have 48 to 46, 47 sessions a year on biceps. That's it, to make them grow. Now, if you do high frequency, low volume, suddenly that's doubled. You got 92. There's the first bonus. If I'm only giving you 8 sets, it gives you less than 400 sets to make your biceps grow. Which means you've got to make those sets count. So if you've got 8, 1 or 2 to warm up, and then you're into it. If you don't work hard, your biceps aren't going to grow. But you can't go into another exercise and do a few more sets to make up for that. You've got to make it work in the sets you've got. That will force intensity up. That will force training intensity up. Now, once you've done this for a while and you've learned that intensity, then you can move things around, add sets in, change volume. But at least at that point, you will have trained hard and you will have pushed your body's boundaries and limits. If you complete a rep on your working set, you do another. If you're aiming for 6 and you do 7 and you complete it, even if it's a shiting dog 3-minute completion rep, you lower the weight and you try and go again. And this time and next time and the time after that, and maybe for 2-3 months, it won't go all the way up, but then it will. And then you've done 8 sets, 8 reps. And then you can increase the workload. Always go for the extra rep, but in form. Now, talking about form, the 3 things I say about form, well, the few things I say about form is 1, over the greatest range possible, safely. Now, everyone goes about arse to grass squatting. If your arse is curling out from underneath you at the bottom of the squat, you can't go arse to grass because your flexibility doesn't allow it. So work on your flexibility. So as long as it is safely completed over the greatest range, in control. Now, you'll have heard the term muscle shortening, and then people say, oh, muscles can't shorten. No, they can't. They've got fixed attach points. You're right. But there's something they can do. A piece of paper. So, I'm going to say bicep. So we've got, this is your bicep muscle. Don't know if you can you see that? Is that going to work? Yeah. Right. Forearm, load, bicep. Now, when my bicep is like that, I stretch and control and recruit fibers throughout the full length, okay, of the muscle. If my range is That I don't. And what will happen is that the fibers in this portion of the muscle will do the flexation. The fibers at the bottom and the top will remain static. Two things then occur. One, you reduce the number of fibers that you stimulate, therefore you reduce the growth potential. And two, you start setting yourself up for injury. Because when that one day you go heavy and you do go lower than you normally do, you enter into that range of muscle fiber that doesn't normally work properly, doesn't flex fully, and then tears and injuries and strains occur. So what shortening of the muscle means is you shorten the effective area within the muscle that is contracting and expanding under load. So you shorten the working part of the muscle. Now, for biceps, for example, that will reduce your ability to gain a good peak. You know if you're training your biceps right because the belly of your muscle will sit right down. And that should be for everything. The greater range, the higher the muscle fiber recruitment. Higher muscle fiber recruitment, the greater muscle fiber damage, greater muscle fiber repair, greater muscle fiber growth. So, muscles do shorten, not physically, but in their effective range of motion. And muscles don't have eyes. You have eyes. You know what's on the bar. The muscle doesn't. It perceives workload. By changing grip, tempo, slowing movement down, that will all change how a load will feel. Even by going that extra quarter inch. I'll use biceps again because it's a really easy example. Next time you do biceps, when you get to what you think is the bottom of the movement, flex your triceps so that you are fully extending your arm and you are actually putting tension on the bicep. Then contract from that position. And you tell me how much you find your strength restricted and how much you find an increased pump and burning that muscle so much quicker. Particularly if you also make sure you go all the way to the top. Because the bicep range of motion is from right down here to right up here. So why does everyone stop here? That's stop the range. Okay, so we've covered a few things there. We're now just approaching half an hour and I don't really want this video to go on any longer. So I'm going to end it now and I'll pick up another one to finish this off. So this will be a two-parter and then we'll start getting into actual body parts. Okay, so thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it and I'll catch you back soon.